Good afternoon, boys and girls. I once again welcome you in this session where we will try to understand part 5th of the lesson The Adventure. Last four parts we have understood the content and the prevailing circumstances in which Gangadhar Pant professor is caught up. When Gangadhar Pant reached in library in Mumbai, he first, demanded his own volumes, which he has himself written. He is a historian. And in the first four volumes, Professor didn't have any problem. All the volumes are intact. There is no confusion in the first four volumes. But the problem emerges with the volume fifth. In the volume fifth, the question of Panipat basically created a little bit problem in the mind of the professor. That is what he is trying to probe, and he searched there, other books. Now, what happens in the library? That is the part fifth. We will try to understand it further. He went through the books and journals before him. At last, among the books, he found one that gave him the clue. And which was the book that gave him the clue? It was Bahusa Banchi Bakar. Bahusa Bakar is basically, highlighted on your screen. Although he seldom relied on the Bakar for historical evidences, he found them entertaining to read. Right now, Professor is always relying on Bakar for historical evidences. He understood it, the books which deals with the facts, which are factual. Sometimes buried in graphics but doctored accounts. Doctored accounts are simply manipulated accounts where history contradicts with the facts. He could spot the germ of truth. He found one now in a three-line account of how close Vishwasrao had come to being killed. Now, this is the important thing which you have to understood. Now, he found one now in three-line account in this particular book, what is called Baka, of how close Vishwasrao had come to being killed. Who is Vishwasrao? Vishwasrao is, you know, one of the ruler of Marathas. One among two ruler, in Marathas. He is very closely escaped. And this another paragraph is very important. And then Vishwasrao guided his horse to the melee where the elite troops were fighting, and he attacked them. Now Vishwasrao did, one thing. He guided his horse towards that particular spot, which is a confused spot where fight emerges. And what he find, and there he attacked them. He attacked, Abdali's troops and Abdali himself. And God was merciful. A shot bruised past his ear. Now, this is, he is finding in the book of Baka. A shot bruised past his ear. A shot bruised, very nearer to his ear. Even the difference of a till would have led to his death. That he has having a very close, very narrow escape. Shot, a fire shot passed, but it passed very nearer to the person, to this particular, nearer to Vishwasrao. At 8 o'clock, the librarian politely reminded the professor that the library was closing for the day, right? Now, by the time when he was reading this particular text history book, what is called Bahusa Banchi Baka, it is almost 8 o'clock in the evening. Now, librarian did one thing. They have to close the library. Gangadhar Pant emerged from his thoughts. Looking around, he noticed that he was only the reader left in the magnificent hall. He found that he's the only reader, in the library, and all other people have left. All other readers have left. I beg your pardon, sir. Now this is the conversation between the two, librarian and the historian, right? And the Gangadhar Pant. I beg your pardon, sir. May I request you to keep these books here for my use tomorrow morning? By the way, when do you open? Now the answer from the librarian is simply at 8 o'clock, sir. The librarian smiled. Here was a user and a researcher right after his heart. As the professor left the table, he showed some notes into his right pocket. Showed, you can understand here, it is to push something roughly. Roughly he put some notes into his pocket. Absent mindedly, he also showed the bucker into his left pocket. Absent mindedly, not consciously. You know what he did? He absent mindedly took the book of Barker and put it into his left pocket and then left, right? He found a guest house to stay in and had a frugal meal. Now, straight away, he moved to the guest house and had a very common meal, usual meal, right? He then set out for a stroll towards the Azad Maidan, Then he moved towards the Azad Maidan. Now, what he find in Azad Maidan that is interesting. In the Maidan, he found a throng moving towards the pandal. Throng is the people. The group of people, they are proceeding towards the pandal, right? So a lecture was to take place. Now in that pandal, what happens? You have simply a lecture that is going to take place. Force of habit took Professor Gaitunde towards the pandal. Now force of habit, because he's habitual of attending seminars and conferences and other things. That's why force of habit is there. He's habitual of attending all these. Now it took also Professor Gaitunde towards the pandal. The lecture was in progress. Although people kept coming and going. People were coming and going. But Professor Gaitunde was not looking at the audience. He's not looking at the audience. He was staring at the platform as if he is mesmerized, right? Now he is looking straight away to the platform and he's mesmerized. He's puzzled to see why he is mesmerized. Now this is very interesting. There was a table and a chair, but the latter was unoccupied. He found a chair is there, which is considered to be the chair of the chairperson, and a table, in front of the chair, but that was unoccupied. There was no person sitting on it. That means this particular conference doesn't have any chairperson. The presidential chair is unoccupied. You don't have presidential chair that is occupied, that is left empty, right? The sight stirred him to the depths, like a piece of iron attracted to the magnet. He swiftly moved towards the chair, right? Now what he did, he straight away moved towards the chair because he is attracted to this particular chair, because he find that there is no person sitting on it. And how it is possible? You have the speakers are coming and delivering their speech, but that too without any you didn't have any chairperson sitting anywhere, right? The speaker stopped in mid sentence, too shocked to continue, but the audience soon found voices, right? Now when he is proceeding towards that chair, what happened? The speaker stopped in mid sentence. The person who was speaking there, he stopped in the mid sentence, too shocked to continue. He is too shocked to continue. Why he is too shocked to continue? Because it is Gangadhar Pant who is trying to occupy that chair, but the audience soon found voice. Now what they did, that is very interesting to understand. Vacate that chair. This lecture series has no chairperson. Now this is the audience. This lecture series has no person. Away from platform, mister. Right? The chair is symbolic. Don't you know? Now these are, the words that are spoken by the audience. What nonsense. Whoever heard the public lecture without a presiding dignitary. Now this is, Gangadhar Pant. Whoever heard. Who is the people are considered to be nonsense if they are listening to the to a speaker and without what is called a presiding dignitary, on the occasion, right? Professor Gaitonde went to the mic and gave vent to his views. Now he straight went to the mic and gave thought to his views, right? Ladies and gentlemen, what he speaks. An uncheered lecture is like Shakespeare's Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark. Now, if you talk of the, uh, what is called uncheered lecture, when you have a lecture or a conference going on, or going to happen, and you didn't have what is called the chairperson, right, at the moment, and the chair is quite empty. It is simply like Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark, right? Now, Hamlet, perhaps you might be knowing, it is a very important play of Shakespeare, a tragedy, where the most important character is the Prince of Denmark, who is the basically the son of the Hamlet, right? And that's why he says, if you don't have the chairperson, the lecture doesn't have the value. In other words, it acts just like the kernel in a nut, right? And then that's why he says, let me tell you what he wants to tell. That is interesting, but the audience was in no mood to listen. Audience don't want to listen to the professor. Tell us nothing. We are sick of remarks from the chair. Always we are sick from the remarks from the chair, right? That means they do not need any type of chair. It seems that there is some equalitarian type of society that is prevailing, of vote of thanks, of long introductions, right? They're not concerned about all these things. Vote of thanks, remarks from the chair, long introductions, they are not concerned at all. We only want to listen to the speaker. Now, what is their motive? Their motive is simply to listen to the speaker. Now, this is very interesting event that happened somewhere in what is called, in the Azad Maidan. Okay. Now, see here, we only want to listen to the speaker. We abolished old customs long ago. We keep the platform empty, please. Right? Now they are requesting him to keep this particular chair empty. But Gangadhar Pant had the experience of speaking at 999 meetings and had faced the Pune audience at its most hostile. He kept on talking. Because he is an experienced person, he has almost attended 999 conferences and meetings, right? Where he has acted as a chairperson. So he did not care about all these things, right? He kept on talking. He soon became the target of a shower of tomatoes, eggs, and other objects. Now the audience threw lot of tomatoes, eggs, and other objects towards the professor, but he kept on trying valiantly. When you say bravely, to correct this sacrilege, right? To correct this disrespect. Now he acted like a brave person in order to correct the people. Finally, the audience swarmed to the stage to eject him boldly. Finally, what happened? The audience moved forward, just like in the form of crowd, and they ejected this particular professor. And in the crowd, Gangadhar Pant was nowhere to be seen. Right now, you won't find Gangadhar Pant anywhere in the audience. Right now, this is happening. This happens with professor. That is all I have to tell Rajendra. Now, what was the detail? He was simply, in conversation with Rajendra Deshpande, right? Rajendra Deshpande is his friend, and he is simply in the hospital. He is in coma, and when he comes out from the coma, this is the history that he is, discussing with his friend Rajendra, right? All I know is that I was found in the Azad Maidan in the morning, but I was back in the world I am familiar with, right? Now, where exactly did I spend those 2 days when I was absent from here, right? Now, he wants to inquire about these 2 days when he was simply in the coma. Remember, for your information, boys and girls, I will tell you, his car collided with a truck, and because of that particular collision, the professor is injured and he is in the coma for these 2 days in which this particular event happens and what he is discussing, right? Rajendra was dumbfounded by the narrative. It is obvious he is dumbfounded. He is completely confused by the narrative of the professor. It took him a while to reply. It takes some moment to reply, right? But what happens now, that is again very important. Professor, before, just prior to your collision with the truck, what were you doing? Rajendra asked, right? Now Rajendra inquired, what were you doing at that time when there is collision of truck and his car? I was thinking of catastrophic theory and its implication for history. Now, what was he thinking? He was thinking over the catastrophic theory and its implication for the history. Right, I thought so, Rajendra smiled. Don't smile smugly, right? Now, when he smiled, now, it is retorted by the, professor. Don't smile smugly. In case you think that it was just my mind playing tricks and my imagination running amok, look at this. Now, he told him that if you understand that my mind is not working properly, or I am simply involved in some sort of tricks, he is trying to give what is called, and he is trying to give some evidences of the facts, right? Amok, you can understand the word amok, amok, to behave what? Uncontrollably, right? When you are, again see this particular line, in case you think it was just my mind playing tricks and my imagination running amok, look at this. Now what he is trying to show him, that is very interesting. He is basically giving the evidences. He is producing evidences from his pocket, and he is trying to tell Rajendra the facts. And triumphantly, Professor Gaitonde produced his vital piece of evidences, a page turn out of a book, right? A page turn out of a book. Now he is producing this, what is called the sense of, the evidences. He is producing it in the form of a paper. Rajendra read the text on the printed page, and his face underwent a change. Gone was the smile, and in its place came a grave expression. A grave expression. He was visibly moved. He was completely moved when he found this particular page. What professor was talking about? The page what professor was talking about, and it is obviously from the book of, this particular book which we just now we have seen, that is uh, yes, I want to tell you, yes, the book is basically Bakr. It is the page from the book Bakr, right? Okay. And boys and girls, this page from the book of Bakr is basically the evidences that is produced by the professor to Rajendra, to his friend, right? From here onwards, we will try to continue it, and there would be, inshallah, another lecture tomorrow. I will meet you tomorrow in another, lecture. Okay. For today, it is okay. God bless.